Hey, this is Joe from Digital Phantom, and today I'm gonna be showing you how to create a UPC-A barcode with PHP. Last time we left off with the introduction of this tutorial series in which we were gonna create UPC barcodes and EAN13 barcodes. Last time the URL I gave you was a Google URL. Now this is the short URL in which you will be able to access all the source file for this project. So last time we left off giving you the areas of the barcodes in general, of linear barcodes in general. So for example, in the UPC-A barcode, we learned that these yellow areas are the guard bars. So every line has a representation, a binary representation. It's either a 0 or a 1. Now, a dark line is represented by a 1 and a white line is represented by a 0. These areas here on the left and on the right are represented by a series of zeros and ones. So beforehand, you need to know all those specifications for the barcode that you're going to generate. Now, I did some research and I found you can find that information on the GS1S, I believe, or you can find it on an encyclopedia like Wikipedia or something like that, something similar. Now, let's get started. I'm gonna open Notepad++ and I'm gonna start writing the code. Remember, we're gonna use PHP to generate this barcode, so we start opening the PHP tags and then closing the PHP tags. This for reusable purposes or for to enable us to reuse this code, we're gonna use something called a class. I know for beginners this might sound a little bit complicated, but we're gonna use a class and we're gonna call it UPC. So let's start that. UPC, declare the class. Basically, class is a group of functions and variables that can do multiple stuff. A class is also referred as an object when you instantiate it. So let's get started. So we're going to declare certain variables. For example, we're going to declare these variables as private, the height of the barcode, the width of the barcode, the var height of the barcode, the bar width of the barcode, and we as you saw in the example here, we do have a label on top, and if you want to recreate that label, then I'm going to also show you how to do that. So we're going to declare a label variable, and then we're also going to declare the border of the barcode, which is going to be the border outside here. So let's do that. Border, private. I already had some duplicate stuff there. So now we declare certain variables, and private means that they can only be accessed in that class. They cannot be accessed outside of that class. So let's create a constructor for this class. Function underscore construct. Now we want to pass two variables two arguments to this constructor. One would be the label that you want to put on the barcode, and the other one will be the bar width. So let's do that. Label, comma, bar width. These two arguments, we want to assign a default value for them, just in case you don't pass anything, it doesn't give you an error, or basically they are not required. So we're just gonna assign it on the declaration. So label equals no, so by default there is no label, and bar width equals 2, so by default the bar width equals 2 pixels. Now let's assign these values to the private variables. This, by the way, you refer to the variables you declare inside the class with the this keyword. So this, that bar width equals bar width. So this bar width will equal the bar width value passed here. In case there is no bar width passed here, then this would be equal to 2. Now let's also do this padding equals bar width times 10. Now I'm going to explain this, what this means. I forgot to add the padding here, but the padding was essentially the spacing that we get to this side and to this side, and the on the bottom and on top. So this is actually the padding. We want to have a center. We want to have the barcode center in that area inside the square. I mean inside the rectangle. So the padding essentially is 10 times the bar width. So in this case it will be 20 pixels to both sides. Now this, you will have to do some research, or you just download this open source code and you use it. But I did the research and I found that the values for this code are this that I'm going to show you right now. So let's call this that map code equals array. Again, I forgot to declare this map code variable here. Map code. Now we're gonna use this as an associative array, and then we're gonna start with 0 since a UPC barcode only allows numbers. Remember that I talked to you about that a 0 represents a white line and a 1 represents a dark line or a black line. Now we're gonna use the same principle to establish this. For 0, the code that represents that is 0 0 0 1 1 0 1. Basically this means it's 3 white spaces or white lines, 2 black lines together, that's all together, then a white line and then a black line. So that's what it represents. Now I'm not gonna talk to you about everything here because it's gonna slow down the process, but I'm just gonna pause the video and continue that in the next, when I start the video again. So I already typed that in, that whole thing. Now I'm gonna explain to you these two areas here, or these two values here. The hash line is actually the middle area or the middle guard bars, and the asterisk represents the left and right guard bars. Essentially, these two guard bars at the ends are equal, so there is no need for you to, like, this one and this one's, they're equal, so there's no need for you to duplicate it. And as you can see, it's 101 and then 101, and in the middle it's 01010. So that's exactly what we have. Now in this barcode, the left part has a different type of encoding as the right part. For example, the left part has an odd number of dark lines or dark single lines. I'm referring as single lines as the, the smallest width that a bar can have. In that case, it will be 2 pixels. So the smallest width of a bar is 2 pixels in this case. So it has 3 dark bars, the 0 one, and on the left part it has an odd number of dark lines, or otherwise it has an even number of white lines, but I'm just going to refer as an odd number of dark lines. The right part of it has an even number of dark lines and an odd number of white lines. That's to detect when the barcode is on the right position or if it's reversed. That's just for the machine to detect that, or the barcode scanner. The reverse map is a little different, so you have to type that in separately. I'm just gonna pause the video and type those values in so you don't spend time watching. So I just added this, the right map, which you can see is different, but still I left out these values here. And I also have to declare this right map on the variable declaration. Sorry. Now we're essentially getting to that point where we need to continue this path. Now we have to set, I'm gonna set a method to set the width of the bar, the width of the smallest bar. So I'm just gonna set that as a function, public function, or as a method, set width, and then I'm gonna put bar width as an argument, as a parameter. It's called a parameter when it's not being passed, and I'm gonna do a check for if it's not a if it's not a if it's not a number, we just don't assign anything, we just leave it by default. So for example, we check if s and if it's an integer, bar width then we assign this bar width equals bar width. Otherwise we don't do anything. Or better yet, yes, if it's not an integer, then this that bar width equals 2. So this might sound a little bit redundant, but it's not, because this only gets passed if you have something. This gets passed to this function if there is nothing there. But if there is something, it doesn't evaluate this, so it doesn't check if it's a number or not, especially if it's an integer or not. So we just assign it here because we're gonna use this as this that set width, and then we're gonna put bar width. So essentially what's that? Well, that's using this constructor to assign this bar width to here, and we essentially can take this out of the way, and it's a better way to check for anything that gets passed and it's not correct. Now let's continue that, and we add another function to set the label of the barcode. It's going to be set label, and then we're going to do a label. Sorry. Now we do another check here. If is no label, then this that label equals, I will put something by default, digital phantom, or better yet, open barcode. That's our project name, so that's what we're gonna call it. Else this that label equals label. So essentially this is what it works. How it works is, if you pass something here and the value is null, you basically ignore that and you just put this. If you pass something, then you assign the label to that something that you pass, to that text that you pass. And then we're gonna use this function the same way we used the previous one with the bar width. So this that set label is gonna be equal to label, and there's not gonna be an issue here because this argument, this parameter is required because there is no default value, but it doesn't matter because we have a default value up here, so it will never get errors on that unless you call it directly. Because it's a public function, you have access it outside, but in our case it won't matter, but you might do a check for that just in case some user types that in incorrectly. Now we're gonna do a function, public function, to create the barcode. Now there comes the interesting part of this. Public function build. The way this build is just a name, how I name it, but it doesn't have to be the way you name it. Remember, you can change the name of these functions however you want. So I'm gonna put code equals null. So what does that mean? By default, the code equals null. And you have to understand that, remember that I talked to you about that the UPC barcode contains 12 digits, but the last digit is a check digit, and that digit is calculated automatically. So in reality, you just pass 11 digits and then the last digit gets calculated automatically. So what that means is that you cannot pass any more than 11 characters, and then the last digits will get calculated, and that's the way that you make sure that your code is right. So if code if is null, code, then we're gonna do this that code equals, let's assign a default one to be 0 0 0, so it's gonna be 11 zeros. So I'm just gonna type 11 zeros. So I think I did 11. Yes, let me just count. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Let me make sure again. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. So that's 11 digits. Else this code equals code. Now I want to check if I declare this code, because I think I didn't do it. So I'm just going to do it now. Private code. Okay, that's good. And we have to check that the maximum amount of digits that we get is 11. So let's do a check for that. I mean, not a check, but let's cut off everything else except the first digits. So let's do that. So this code equals sub str. So what sub str means? Well, sub str is a PHP function that allows you to trim a string, giving it a start position 0, which is at the beginning, and then we give it the length, which is 11. So it's gonna be 11 characters after the start. You trim everything else outside of that. Now we have to do something else. We have to check if that is numeric, because otherwise we'll get an error. So we do again s int. It's got to be an integer. Then we put code. Okay, if it's int, then you go on. So we do have that the check digit, we have to calculate it. So basically how that works is the check digit in a UPC barcode is calculated. You would essentially take the even digits, or the ones that are in position 0 2, or in position 2 4 6 8 10, and you add those digits, and you take the digits that are in position 1 3 5 7 9 and 11, and you multiply them by 3 and you add them together. So we're gonna do that on a loop, and we first have to declare the checksum to be equal to 0 outside of that loop. Now we're gonna start the loop for digit. This is just a variable because we're taking digit by digit, and then digit is less than str length of code and digit plus plus. So what is essentially this doing? This is breaking the string into digits. So if digit remainder 2 equals 0, then checksum equals plus I'm going to concatenate this to an integer. Code digit times 3. I'm going to explain this to you now. So what is this? This is essentially typing checksum equals checksum plus this. It means the same thing. It means the same thing as this. I'm just going to show you. This on the bottom means the same thing as this on top, but it's a more compact way to represent that. So check your operators so you can know about that. And don't be confused about this, because remember that in an array, which essentially this is what we're doing, we're taking the digit from position 0 to any position. So position 0, it will mean digit 1. So you have to do the reverse. But if you start from 1, then it will be the other way. So it will be, if this is that, then you just add those, add the checksum or the digits. But since we're starting from the 0 index of the array, we have to do this. And what's happening here? We're taking the code and passing it a value. Essentially, the code is a string, right? But since you're considering that an array, basically a string is considered an array of characters. So you're getting a character based on the position. Now the checksum now equals checksum plus, and I'm going to cast this to an int2. It's going to be code then digit. So we're getting there. That's good. Let's do something more. Now remember that the check digit is calculated by subtracting the the remainder of the checksum times 10, and then subtracting that from 10. So essentially it's something like this. You might not understand it the way I'm explaining you, but you understand now. So check digit equals 10 minus checksum remainder 10. So by the order of precedence, this gets evaluated first. So the remainder of 10 times 10 of the checksum is subtracted from 10. So the check digit is the difference between 10 and the remainder of checksum times 10. So I think we're gonna leave the rest of this part to the next tutorial because it's gonna be pretty long. We'll still have to create we have done the logic, but we now have to create the lines and stuff like that. So I'll see you next time. Remember, if you like this video or you like any of my videos, subscribe to my channel, like those videos, add to favorites, comment on them, and also be sure to follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/digitalphantom, and be also sure to follow me on Facebook, to like me on Facebook. It's Digital Phantom 2. So go in there and like us and support us if you like what we do. So see you in the next part.